Man, things just go from bad to worse. I think at this point. What's up, everyone? Hunter Hodes here, back with another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. For tonight's episode, we're going to dive into everything that went right and mostly everything that went wrong in the Penguins' 6-5 heartbreaking loss to the Boston Bruins. In overtime, they get a point, but the losing streak has now reached 5 games. So we're going to dive into all of that game, look into some of the problems that have persisted throughout this losing streak, and especially from the previous couple of games on the road trip, and how the Penguins, they got to figure out a way to get this back going in the other direction against Buffalo on Wednesday. I'm going to preview that game on this episode as well. Just a whole lot to get to for this one. So hope you all join me right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. And I think that is the best way to describe tonight's loss. And I will do it again for you all. That is, it's a yikes. It's like as the kids say, dog water. Yikes in the chat, L plus ratio plus whatever these people want to say. It's a loss. You're up 5-2 with 25 minutes left. You blow that lead, you're up 5-3 with 9 minutes left in the third. You're up 5-4 with $1:30 left, and you can't finish it off. And you get a power play in overtime, and that leads to some goals against. And I think it's only right that we start this episode with the goaltending, because, I think that's been, honestly, the big sticking out point for me during this losing streak, or one of the big sticking out points for me. The goaltending has just been atrocious. Casey DeSmith played fine, but Tristan Jarry, these last 3 to 4 games, not on his game. He honestly could have allowed 7 goals tonight, to be honest with you. He got bailed out by the Mike Sullivan challenge. And usually this team, not super good with goaltender interference challenges. I think last year they were below 500, but for this one, they were able to win that. And the Penguins, that kept the game 5-2 before the Bruins made it 5-3 just a few minutes later. But again, overall, it's not good enough for Tristan Jarry. So 28 shots against tonight at 5v5. This was at 5v5. So 3 goals against at 5v5. Expected goals against 2.29. His save percentage 893. His actual goals against, though, 3.62. He got out 3 high danger goals against, 571 save percentage. That is not good enough. And the 6th goal that he allowed, the overtime winner, to Lindholm, that was probably the worst of the night, to be honest with you. I don't know what in the heck Tristan was doing on that shot. Just put your glove up, man. That's really all you had to do in that situation. That's a shot that comes 30, 35 feet out. I don't think he was screened. I've watched that replay about 3-4 times now. Looks like he had a clear line of sight of it. Just for some reason could not make the save there. You got to bail your team out in that situation. I know the team just screwed up and they didn't score on the power play and a couple of other on-man rushes, but when you need to make a save for your team, especially after you gave up 5 goals, you got to make a save there. And I'm not really going to blame the 5th one or the 4th one on him, just because the 4th one, that's a really nice deflection by Zacha. The Penguins, there's nothing they could do there. They were dominating the third period up until that point, at least in my opinion, and you can look at the score effects as well. 5th goal, that's just bad in-zone D coverage for some reason. Brian Dumoulin is out there. I'm going to get to that in a little bit in just a second. But, a couple of the other goals, just not in position. He's standing way further back in his crease. That was one of the biggest things I noticed tonight, honestly, guys, was he was not playing aggressive like he normally is. And when he's not doing that, he looks rattled. He looks small in his net. And that is exactly what you saw for this game against the Bruins. Just did not have it at all. And, it's hard for me to criticize him just because I was so high on him coming into this season. I said he was going to be a Vezina Trophy finalist. He was probably going to be top 5 in goal save above expected. Started off the season red hot, looking like he was going to get an extension. And then, the last 3 or 4 games, he's just fallen off. He's not even close to being top 10 in goal save above expected for this season. So it's something that he's going to have to figure out pretty quick. Luckily, again, guys, it's November 1st. Teams, they go through rough patches like this all the time at the beginning of the season. Heck, Colorado's not even off to a good start this year. I think Minnesota's off to a rough start. Washington's not playing well, but they're also pretty banged up. But goaltending, not good enough tonight. And I think that's been a little bit of a story over these last 4 to 5 games, really, is that the Penguins, when they need a save from one of their goaltenders, they have not gotten one. Special teams, I thought they stung tonight too. PK, same old kind of issues. But the power play, especially in overtime, you have a 4-on-3 for full 2 minutes. You have 3 of the best players in the league out there. I know no Chris Letang obviously hurts, but you're telling me you really can't get a lot of sustained zone time for that? I mean, like the zone entries I thought were putrid. They got a couple of chances, but the puck movement wasn't that good. I mean, I know Jeff Petrie, you have to have a defenseman on there. They're not going to go 4 forwards. I mean, Mike Sullivan's not going to galaxy brain himself there. But still, like usually when I watch other 4-on-3 power plays, the puck movement looks crisp. The other team is hardly getting the puck for the entirety of those 2 minutes. But the Bruins, they had the puck quite a bit. And, it's something that Todd Reirden really needs to fix. I think the power play looked good coming out of the gate this year. Since then, total dog crap. And I think going into that game against Vancouver, Seattle, ever since that hard start, they had like a 16 to 17% conversion rate, which is a little bit below average. It's just not a good enough unit right now. And I think they need to take a long look in the mirror for that. But, those are my 2 main culprits of this game. Obviously, Brian Dumoulin being on the ice for that tying goal. I don't know what Mike Sullivan is seeing there. I really do not understand why he is playing high leverage minutes when you are trying to win a game. You are on a 4-game losing streak. Why are you trying to ice it? Why are you icing a player that has been bad for this season? I understand the guy is a veteran. He has played well for you for the back-to-back cup teams. I get it. He was great. But you know what? The last 2 years, he stunk. I don't know how much more clear I got to be on this. He was washed last year. I gave that a pass. I was like, you know what? Maybe he turns around this year. So far through 10 games, he looks bad. I mean, and tonight, he was without his primary partner in Chris Letang. Even next to Letang, just has not been good. And again, I don't understand the logic there. You can go put out Jan Ruta if you want. Just honestly put out Pedersen Ruta there. Done. Easy. 2 guys who are good in front of the net. Dumoulin is not going to win those net battles. Yes, the Penguins need to be better with clearing the net front or just getting the puck out of the zone. In those situations, it was the same similar thing to what happened in Montreal, but you also got to protect your goalie, and they were not doing that in that 6-on-5, especially Dumoulin. He's not been good enough, and at this point, I really don't know what you do with him. It's obvious that the coaching staff doesn't see him as a problem yet. Mike Sullivan said after the game that, I thought he competed hard. Yes, that came from Danny Shirey. He's currently getting ratioed from his tweets, but that's not his fault. He's just relaying the news here, people. But again, it's obvious, and that's annoying, but it is obvious that the team does not give a crap about his performance right now, and they think he's chugging along fine. I don't know, man. If you're asking me, not good enough. Tonight, I mean, led with Corsi, 64%, expected goals, little over 50, scoring chances, fine. But, the eye test, just woof, to say the least. And last but not least, I'll say this. You're on a 4-game losing streak. Hold the lead. You gotta come out of there with that win. I understand the Bruins are really good. They're probably they're probably better than I thought they would be this season, but that's just not good enough. It's unacceptable to lose that game. And now you're seeing a lot of reactions from people, and some people are right about this team. I think some people are a bit foolish. I mean, I keep hearing the same argument that, it's the same team coming back. And it's just like, I mean, yeah, no crap. It was the same team coming back. They got screwed on goaltending last year, and they outplayed the Rangers for that entire series. Of course, they weren't going to make too many changes. They didn't need to make that many changes to this team. I keep seeing people blaming the core players for some reason. I'm sorry. Both Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin scored tonight, and Chris Letang did not play. And yeah, he's been kind of mad to start the season, but I'm not going to really place the blame on them for place the full blame on them for the 5-game losing streak. It is a team effort here, people. At the end of the day, that is what it is. Some of the depth players are also not stepping up. The defense hasn't been good enough, and the goaltending hasn't been good enough. And dare I say it, Mike Sullivan has also not been good enough as Penguins head coach. I don't usually criticize him that much because you all know how I feel about him, but he has not been playing some of his best matchups in high leverage situations like the Dumoulin situation. Heck, the fourth line was on the ice with 3 minutes to go, and they got hemmed in, which led to the David Pastrnak chance. Why? Why is that line of Brock McGinn, Ryan Poehling, and Josh Archibald seeing ice time with 3 minutes to go when the Penguins are up 1? That is not the line I would be throwing out there. That is for sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's like the main negatives from this game that I really wanted to touch on. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to get into just, why there are too many passengers on this team right now, especially depth forward wise. And we're also going to get into, at least I'll touch on some of the positives from tonight, including honestly overall, the process that the Penguins had, because it really was a good process. But before we get to that, if you thought about securing your home with home security but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Penguins listeners can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Simply Safe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report, which is a third year in a row. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. Simply Safe is whole home security with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and out, smarter ways to detect motion that alert you only when a threat is real, and even hazard sensors and detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, you can stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere. Also, you can arm, disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust system settings. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that I recommend. Get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so don't wait. That is simplysafe.com/LockedOnNHL. There is no safe like Simply Safe. All right, I'm back in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. All right. Also, another big issue from what I've been seeing these last few games, and I apologize for no episode on Monday for Halloween, but too many passengers, I think. Like, look at the bottom six right now. Even with Jason Zucker and Jake Ensel back, and I know Jeff Carter is out right now, and Teddy Blueger has not made his return yet, but I think his return is coming in the coming days. And even Carter, honestly, has been a passenger for most of this year. But hey, guys, big Jeff Carter scores goals sometimes and all that stuff. But, you look at the underlying numbers, his defensive metrics are putrid. And honestly, he's just been falling off a cliff ever since he signed that deal. But again, he sometimes scores an occasional goal. Brock McGinn has been invisible for this entire season. That contract is looking really bad right now. And, everyone that's listened to this show for over a year, if you haven't, you can go check out my episode with Brock. I think he's a really nice guy. It was great to have him on. I thought he was going to, bring a lot of oomph to the team. Is going to be a great Brandon Tanev replacement so far. Just hasn't been the case. I just don't notice him whenever he is on the ice. And he's eating up precious cap space right now, $2.75 million to be exact, to basically just be a guy. That is what he is doing on the ice every single shift out there. He's just gliding. He had a couple of scoring chances tonight that he usually buries that he just didn't. Defensively, he's been bad. Penalty kill, not good enough. And, this is year 2 of year 4 of that contract. Josh Archibald, nice goal tonight. I will say that. Good job from him. It was a bounce back from him. Overall, though, when you look back at the previous 4 games, he's a player that was just putting them shorthanded almost every game. And it's like, you're obviously hurting your team when you're doing that. And also you're not really doing anything else outside of that. Again, I understand better game from him tonight. It's what I wanted to see, but overall just hasn't done enough this year in the bottom six. Ryan Poehling, some people kind of went after me just because I roasted him a little bit after the Vancouver or Seattle game. But still, I think at this point, for a player that was basically a throw-in to the Petrie trade, I mean, that's what you're seeing right now. I really don't think he has that much potential. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I'm not a big fan of him at this point. That's my opinion, though. Nice to see Drew O'Connor at least come in the lineup tonight. I think they'll obviously want more of him if he's going to stay up, even past when Carter or Bluger return or something like that. But again, like there's too many passengers in the forward group. And heck, even Jeff Petrie, I think he hasn't been that good to start the season. And if his offense doesn't really come back, the Penguins could be really screwed with the rest of his contract. But, I said coming into the season, they need more from their bottom six, and they have not been getting it. Kasperi Kapanen, I thought he did have a solid start to the season, but lately the third line continues to be a very big issue. If you go down and look at hockey stat cards for tonight, Pettersson, Petrie struggled a little bit, but the entire third line, Heinen, O'Connor, Kapanen, three of the worst forwards on the ice. They were all in the negative score for how they played. I mean, especially for Kapanen, he's been invisible these last 4 to 5 games. Honestly, what has he done these last 4 to 5 games except just glide around as well? Heck, the game was 1-1 against Seattle with a minute and a half left in the second period. The Penguins, they had won a couple of challenges. The Kraken got the goal back, but Kapanen's coming up the ice. You want to see him use his speed to his advantage, but he just throws a blind pass into the middle of the ice. It's picked off. Seattle goes the other way. They make it 2-1. That's your game. And that's the Penguins don't score in the third period. And tonight, he didn't make that kind of an egregious turnover, but also, again, it's not good enough from him, especially because they just gave him 2 years and $3.2 million per season. I mean, Dan Heinen, I don't really have too much to criticize about him because I think he's been really good to start this season. But, overall, that third line of those three, that hasn't been good. I mean, it's only a 1-game sample. But even when Carter is there, it hasn't been that good either. I think the bottom six is a major issue for this team right now. I definitely still think that they need another C. I think Bluger is a fine fourth-line center. I don't think he's going to be someone that ever goes up to a third-line center, but they need another guy who can play at both ends of the rink, who also has a good goal-scoring touch, and also whose numbers are not just putrid. And, Carter at this point, again, played great in the first half of last season, signed his contract, looked bad after that. So far this season, even before he got hurt, not good enough either. So I hate using this term too. I just feel like there's a lot of dead weight on this team right now. And I'm not saying this, it's not like Craig Adams, Joe Vitale, Zach Sill, any of those players from the late ratio days. But still, those players are better than those players, but they're still playing like dead weight. And that's not good enough when you are in a win now mode. So really wanted to touch on all of that. It was great to see Jake Gensel have a great game. Sidney Crosby was flying everywhere. Evgeny Malkin thought he played well too. Ricard Raquel, he's, I think, been their best player this year. I have no problem saying that. If you guys want to disagree with me, you can. I think he's been the only player to show up in every single game this year. What more can you say? Great, has a wonderful release, great first pass. Defensively, he hasn't hurt them at all. Been a natural fit on Crosby's line. I've really enjoyed watching him play. So I'll definitely not criticize him. Those players, again, thought they played pretty well. I thought Marcus Pettersson had a fine game. Jan Ruta, fine. But sooner or later, this team needs to start getting out some wins. I know they're 4 and how do I want to say this? I know, Jens, 5-game losing streaks aren't fun. It's not fun for me to sit here like this and, be sad for you all, but, I got to call it how it is. I do this for you guys, and I try to be as objective as I can when it comes to this team. Honestly, you take away some of the goaltending, the Penguins, they controlled 58% of the shot attempts at 5v5. They controlled 50% of the scoring chances, 65% of the high danger chances, and 61% of the expected goals. 95% of the time, the team that controls all that wins that game. And the Penguins, honestly, people aren't going to want to hear this, but they were playing a great third period before that Pavel Zacha goal. They were shutting the Bruins down. They were back-checking hard. They weren't turtling. I saw that term thrown around tonight. I do not believe they were turtling. Even after that, the Bruins had a couple of chances. The Penguins had some really nice bounce-back shifts. They just didn't do enough in those final couple of minutes to just really keep the puck on their stick and find that final goal to secure the win. And the Penguins, they're going to have to learn how to defend leads in the third period. This is the second time already in 10 games that they have blown a lead in a 6-on-5 situation, 20% so far. Has to change if they want to go anywhere this year. So that does it for this episode, this segment of the podcast. Coming up in the final side, we're going to get into some listener takeaways and do a small preview for the next game against the Buffalo Sabres. So stick around for that. Coming up right after these messages. All right. Hello, I'm back on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. You're going to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So, a couple of reactions here. Nick says special teams are a mess. Dumo is cooked, and Jarry was really bad tonight. Yeah, I mean the special teams just haven't been good enough to start this season. Jarry again making me look bad for sure. And yeah, right now Dumoulin definitely does look a little cooked. Tom Petroni says at some point you need to wonder if the players have tuned out Mike Sullivan. This is a team that's worse in all facets so far. Honestly, Tom, I don't think they've tuned out Sully. I think they're just having they just got to. It's going to sound so cliche and stupid. Maybe they need to figure out how to win again. And it sounds dumb, right? Like they started out the season 4-0-1, but when you've lost 5 in a row, you make losing plays. Like when you've lost that many games in a row, you're not making winning plays. So they need to get back to that. Just get down to basics. Quick passes, defending hard in front of the net, getting saves, all this stuff. Once I think they get down to basics, this team should be fine. We have seen this team be on another level this season. They didn't start out 4-0-1 for no reason. I truly do think this team is good. This is a 100-point team. They're just really going through it right now, and they've just lost the will to win, I think. I don't think it's anything to do with Mike Sullivan. I think, all the players play hard for him, but it's also something that, they got to stop making losing plays. That, I think, is the difference at the end of the day. Jackson Hollister said, this team has so many good players and they just can't get it done. I know it's a good Bruins team, but come on, they blew a 3-goal lead. We're watching 2 completely different teams from the first 4 games to now. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, Jackson. Like, I know there's a good team in there, and I understand that they sometimes start the seasons a bit slow, but they just got to start making winning plays. Once that comes around, this team's going to go on a winning streak. I truly think that. And yes, King Clarkey, I know you're doing your Connor Bedard tweets just for the tank. It's always hilarious from you. And yeah, overreacting a bit. Yeah, I mean, they pissed away this game. Special teams, net front defense. I wouldn't say they have no gas left in the tanks. I just think, one team made winning plays. The other team continues to not make winning plays at this point. Wesley, I disagree with you that the Penguins played bad in the third period. Up until the 12-minute mark, the Penguins were keeping the puck away from the Bruins. Like, legitimately do not even remember a scoring chance that they had in the first 12 minutes of that third period before that harmless wrist shot came in from the point and Zacha was able to tip it. And that's just awesome defense, by the way, from Jan Ruta. There is absolutely nothing that Ruta can do there. He's playing that perfectly. It's just a really nice deflection. And yeah, you would like Jarry to make a save there, but I'm not really blaming them. So honestly, I think the third period was mostly fine. They can't give up a goal in the 6-on-5. Obviously, they got to work on that. But other than that, I think it was an okay period. And I think performance-wise, they played well enough to win. They made too many dumb plays, basically. Finally, if I can find this one here. Alan Toyota. Yeah, I know, Alan. I'm sorry you had to be at that game. I know, obviously, it was wild. And yeah, the first power play unit. I'm honestly might just be at this point now where I agree with you, and it's just like they should start the second unit out there at times. It's they gotta fix some things with that unit for sure. And yeah, Sid was awesome tonight as well. So again, I really appreciate all of you sending in all your reactions. Funny enough, if you all are looking for a new phone case, this one just came in today for me. If you want to go to Red Zone Cases, they're custom made, has Sid and Gino on the back of it. It's pretty awesome, to say the least. Finally, real quick here before we wrap up, next game for the Penguins against the Buffalo Sabres, a Sabres team that, honestly, I'll say this, they've been pretty decent this year. Rasmus Dahlin is finally playing like a number 1 overall pick. He's been lights out for them. He has 12 points in 9 games. Tage Thompson literally just came off a 6-point night the other night. And, I think this is, I wouldn't say this is like a mirage at this point. They're 6-3 through their first 9 games. I don't expect them to make the playoffs this year, but it is good to see that team finally playing well. This is definitely not a gimme game for the Penguins. I mean, there should be no gimme game for them right now. It's going to be tough for them to win, especially on a back-to-back. I would expect Casey DeSmith to get the start. Jeff Skinner, always a good player. Again, Dahlin has been great. They got Owen Power, Tage Thompson, Casey Middlestat, et cetera, et cetera. So, this is a team, you can't take them lightly. Alex Tuck, he's had a good year. Peyton Krebs as well. So, they got to get a win here at some point. I mean, they're not going to lose every game the rest of the way here, but they got to get back in the win column. They should have had it tonight. Obviously, they had other ideas, but I think that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I really appreciate all of you listening to this one, by the way, and I'll have another one for you all after the game on Wednesday. I'll have a full recap episode for you all, and hopefully the Penguins will be able to come out with a win. So thank you all so much for listening. I will talk with you all on Wednesday.